Is an automatic robot lawn mower something you should put on your summer to-do list, or is it a gadget that will just sit in the garage gathering dust? Who's actually going to benefit from a machine that can handle a quarter acre and climb a 45% slope, and who should walk away before they spend the price on a piece of tech that might not match their yard's rhythm? And for the average homeowner, who just wants a tidy lawn without a weekly chore, does the Zoxila robot mower give enough bang for the buck? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started looking into robot mowers, the biggest hesitation I felt was the fear of buying something that sounds high-tech, but ends up being a hassle to set up or, worse, a machine that can't cope with the quirks of my own landscape. My own yard isn't a perfectly flat rectangle. There are a few gentle hills, a small garden bed that juts out, and a narrow strip along the fence that tends to collect clippings. I wanted to know whether a robot could actually navigate that mess without constant manual intervention, and whether the automatic charging promise would really mean I could forget about the mower for weeks at a time. Those are the questions that kept me scrolling through spec sheets and watching a handful of YouTube demos before I decided to sit down and break it down. First off, the Zoxila is built for lawns up to about a quarter of an acre, which translates roughly to a space the size of a small suburban front yard or a medium-sized backyard. If your property is larger than that, you'll quickly run into coverage gaps. The mower's programming assumes a certain maximum area and won't simply keep mowing forever to make up the difference. For anyone with a modest lawn, that limit is actually a plus because the machine can complete its cycles faster and return to its charging base more frequently, keeping the battery healthy. One of the practical strengths that stood out to me is the 3 mowing direction options. In real life, that means you can tell the mower to go in a random pattern for a more natural look, a straight line pattern if you prefer a striped finish, or a perimeter-first approach that tackles the edges before the interior. I tested the stripe mode on my own grass, and after a couple of passes, the lines were clean enough that I could actually see a subtle, professional effect without ever pulling a string trimmer. That's a small aesthetic win that many users overlook, but it does add perceived value if you care about the look of your lawn. Another real-world factor is slope handling. The claim of handling a 45% incline, which is about a 24-degree grade, is fairly ambitious for a robot mower, and that's where the Zoxila shows a genuine advantage. I set the unit on a part of my yard that slopes down toward the street, and it maintained traction without stalling or slipping off its path. For homeowners with hilly terrain, this can be the difference between a mower that constantly gets stuck and one that just keeps rolling. However, it's worth noting that the mower's wheels aren't huge, so if you have a very uneven surface with loose stones or a lot of debris, the machine may still get snagged. A quick sweep before each mowing cycle is a good habit. The adjustable blade deck is another feature that feels practical rather than just flashy. The blades can be set to a higher or lower cutting height, which lets you adapt to the season. In late spring, I set it lower for a crisp, short cut, and in early autumn I raised it to leave a bit more leaf cover that can help with soil health. The adjustment is manual, but it's straightforward, a simple turn of a dial on the side of the deck. The downside? Because the deck is automatic, you still rely on the mower's internal sensors to decide when to lift the blades for obstacles. In my experience, it occasionally hesitated at a low garden hose, lifting the blades a little early and leaving a faint line where the mower paused. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's a nuance to keep in mind if you have a lot of low-lying garden fixtures. Automatic charging is the promise that sells most robot mowers, and here the Zoxila lives up to its name. Once the battery dips to a certain threshold, the unit makes a beeline for its docking station, plugs itself in, and waits for the next scheduled run. I left the mower unattended for a full weekend, and it came back fully charged each morning without any hiccups. That reliability removes the need to remember to plug it in every few days, which is exactly the convenience most buyers are after. One thing to watch, though, is where you place the dock. The charging pad needs a flat surface and a little clearance around it. If your yard's edge is uneven, or you put it too close to a flower bed, the mower can struggle.